If you started with $1 and doubled it every day, how many dollars would you have by the end of the month? It's a question you've most probably come across before, and what makes it so special is that the answer is so unexpectedly high, it leaves most people shocked. More than $1 billion, from $1 to $1 billion in just 30 days. Well, what if I told you that same exponentiality principle also applies to your wealth? With patience and a disciplined approach, you'll witness your wealth climb to levels few ever experience. It's called compound interest, and it's the foundation of the generational ultra-rich as well as Warren Buffett's fortune. Einstein himself deemed it as the 8th wonder of the world, adding, "He who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it." The concept is proven to work, and simple at that. You don't have to be a Wall Street trader to understand it, and I can promise you that you can implement it yourself with ease after watching this video. You see, many people always talk about get rich quick, but get rich quick isn't really a thing. The only way to get rich quick is if you get lucky, which you can't guarantee, so get it out of your head. Get rich quick doesn't exist. With compounding, we're not leaving anything to chance. So let me break down to you the basics of compounding before we dive in further. Compounding is the exponential growth of assets that happens when the interest or capital gain is reinvested. What that means is the following. Say you have $10,000 spare and decide to put it in a savings account from your bank. The bank offers you a yearly interest rate of 5%, so at the end of the year you will receive an interest payment of $500. Now, instead of spending these $500, you decide on leaving them in the savings account for the next year, which, with our new balance of $10,500, will now earn you an interest of $525 by the end of the year. Congratulations, you've just earned your first compound interest. These extra $25 are your reward for reinvesting the $500 interest from last year. If you decide on continually reinvesting your interest, you will eventually break the $100,000 mark in year 48 from just your initial $10,000. Not too bad. So let's take it a step further. Assuming you work a full-time job and earn a salary, we can suppose you being able to put away a certain amount of money after paying for all your living expenses each month. The average salary in America is $66,000. On a monthly basis, that's $5,500, and taking a savings rate of 5%, we arrive at $275, which are left each month. Now, a 5% savings rate isn't a lot, it's about what the average American saves, but a recommended savings rate is between 10 to 20%, and especially if you're still young, you should be able to save 20% or more. But for our calculations and to prove that even if you're not the most well off in your financial situation, you can still build a fortune, we will take $275 a month. Now, if you know just a bit about finance, you know that leaving all your money in a savings account isn't the best idea, because there are other ways of achieving higher returns without taking on much more risk. So instead, we take these $275 to the stock market, where we'll invest them into ETFs that replicate, for example, the S&P 500, which is an index that tracks the performance of America's top 500 companies. On average, the S&P 500 grows 10% every year. So, starting with $0, you're gonna take $275 each month and invest that amount into the S&P 500, from which you can expect 10% a year. In the start, your savings won't grow at a remarkable rate, but remember, wealth builds over time, and as the years go on, we can see that the savings start to exponentially take off. Already in year 14, you'll pass the $100,000 mark, which at the time is already double the amount of all your contributions. A few years later, in year 35, you'll officially be a millionaire. Congratulations. But don't celebrate yet, because it only gets crazier from here. Just 7 years later, in year 42, you'll already have doubled again with 2.1 million, and another 6 years later, you'll be at 4 million. 7 years from then at 8, and in 60 whole years from the year you started investing, you'll sit on an astonishing $13,269,214. Now, ask yourself this question: can you afford to put away just $275 a month? Keep in mind that along your career, your salary, and with that your savings, will most probably also grow, which is something we're not taking into account here. Furthermore, chances are you already have a certain amount saved up and you won't be starting from zero. And as you probably already noticed, the real money is made in the later years. Take a look at this chart depicting Warren Buffett's wealth relative to his age. Do you see a pattern? The exponential curve is clearly visible. 99.7% of his money was made after the age of 52. So start as soon as possible. Especially if you're still young, this is your sign to start or increase your monthly contribution at all costs. Think about in which parts of your life you could be saving more. The average US consumer spends $91 a month on subscriptions, and I'm sure you could cancel some streaming ones and sail the seas for free, if you know what I mean. And for example, why not break a bad habit while you're at it? A pack-a-day smoker spends around $3,700 a year on cigarettes. That's $308 a month, which even exceeds our previous calculations, making you miss out on close to $15 million in 60 years. Now, it's important to mention that we're not taking into account inflation here. These $15 million from the smoker won't be worth as much in 60 years as they are now, but compounding is still fundamental for growing a fortune. We ourselves are limited to an investment horizon of about 65 to 80 years if we start early and live long enough. But imagine this over generations. Compounding is the engine of generational wealth. I'm talking multiple hundreds of years. Our $275 a month from earlier would grow to an astonishing $16 trillion 200 years later without adjusting for inflation, which is all the more important to mention the further we go into the future. But still, that's just unfathomable. If you want to run your own calculations, there's many amazing websites that'll leave you the link to down in the description. Seriously, go try them. Seeing it yourself will make you realize the power of compounding all the more. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.